Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So today we're going to look at Champions Ascension. So this is a game that was actually announced, was it 5 days ago now, as we can see. So looking at their medium. So Champions Ascension is a game that's been announced by Jam City. So this was pretty interesting that they were the first, I guess, big traditional games publisher to announce a blockchain game. Since then, obviously, we've had Ubisoft announcing its first sort of NFT project. Champions Ascension, I think, is I'm going to say a bit more interesting. I don't mean a bit more interesting from that point of view, but it's a bit more blockchain, I suppose. Ubisoft, what they're doing is really cool, and it's really good that they're doing it. But they've sort of as much as possible sort of sucked the blockchain out of what they're doing, which is I think makes sense for them. But obviously we like to have a mix of projects. And Champions Ascension, as much as we know, a bit light on details at the moment, but as much as we know about this one, it looks pretty sort of full on sort of open blockchain. So we'll see how that pans out. So it's still pretty early. One of the reasons I'm doing this is they're doing their NFT mint in about a week or so's time. So sort of you need to sort of follow them on Twitter and the usual sort of socials for that. They're doing actually a whitelisted mint, so that means you have to have your wallet whitelisted before you can mint it. So it's not just sort of first come first served. If you want to sort of mint one of these NFTs, you have to basically have had your wallet sort of pre-approved from that point of view. Anyway, let's have a quick look at what's going on here. So Jam City are up to this point purely free-to-play mobile publisher. They don't talk at all about what platform this is on. I'm assuming this is not mobile because you can't do this sort of stuff on mobile at the moment because of Apple and Google terms and conditions. So I'm assuming this is web-based. We can see here, so play to earn adventure driven in a player-driven high fantasy universe. So we can see some of these sort of characters, fantasy characters. Looks like a sort of gladiatorial sort of PvP sort of arena here. So yeah, gladiatorial combat as your champion strives to bring glory to their house. So you're sort of fighting. Skills, engineering genes to create new champions. So this idea, I guess, that we have these champions and we can use those to create more champions. I guess we're thinking of breeding mechanic here. Ascend to a higher tier, gain access to private and elite features, manipulate life and death, blah, blah. So the game's not coming out this year, coming out early 2022. So this is obviously, will be interesting to see at what level this is at. So graphically, obviously looks great in terms of this at least this artwork. Obviously, it's been I'd imagine a pretty tight dev schedule. So they haven't had lots of time to do this. So maybe the game won't be sort of massively fully featured. I'm sure that's why they've gone this sort of PvP arena. Obviously, you're making the characters and you've got the arenas, but you're not making massive open worlds that just take years to do. So this is sort of a project which I think is sort of, I wouldn't say purely experimental, but it's something that's sort of, a first experiment with blockchain and sort of get some learnings in there. Not to say this game won't continue for a long time, but you have to sort of be aware of these sort of things that if it's coming out now, then it obviously has been in development for a year. In terms of the NFTs, we have the sort of standard setup. There we have 10,000 NFTs. Animated, so different functional unique parts. So there's looks like some sort of randomness going on there. Again, sort of reading between the lines here, we have every single prime eternal NFT is unique. So these are this is what's kind of minting at the top end. It looks like you will be able to sort of create more NFTs. So I imagine we have prime eternal NFTs, and then we have other sorts of NFTs. So, in fact, it says this: Prime Eternals are the only champions with the possibility to possess divine components. So there will be other NFTs that won't possess divine components. So that's always sort of issue. It's great to have like 10,000 sort of unique NFTs, but we know those projects can only have a maximum of 10,000 sort of users. And if they want this game to be played by presumably millions of people, then obviously you have to have a sort of secondary level of sort of cheaper NFTs. So just be aware of that. And these sort of count as sort of founding member NFTs. Again, so it's interesting. So that's sort of all we've got at the moment. There is a Discord, which there's more information on, obviously, Twitter. But Discord is sort of where the community is happening, as all these things are. Notice it doesn't mention platforms at all. It doesn't mention blockchain, what blockchains to use. I'm sort of guessing, as I say, this is going to be sort of browser-based. And I'm guessing this is on Ethereum for the 10,000 number. Obviously, there are drops on other blockchains using 10,000. My gut feeling is that they are going to do this on Ethereum, and these ones are going to be expensive ones. That it's going to appeal to the crypto community who can afford to spend whatever you're going to spend on gas fees and minting, and obviously dropping something on Ethereum, gives you that price velocity. So potentially these things go to 1 ETH, 2 ETH, whatever these things go up to. Maybe wrong on that one. I'm purely guessing, but that's sort of what I think sort of makes sense. If I was a developer, that sort of would be what I was doing. And if I wasn't doing it on Ethereum, I would probably be saying in this piece that I was doing it on Solana or something like that. Clearly, Jam City did not need to raise money to do this. They're a well-funded company, publicly owned company in the States, so they don't need to go to Solana to raise money, which is what a lot of blockchain games have done because they get a lot of funding from Solana. So if you're not doing that, and you're not, I just think they're going to be on Ethereum. So anyway, I'm sort of looking forward to finding out more about this, really. And certainly, I think around the minting, we'll probably get a bit more idea of sort of the game. I think that on Twitter there have been a few more sort of images of what's going on here. But you can sort of see enough, I guess, about how these characters are going to look like. I think they look pretty cool. I think when we start getting proper game artists building this sort of stuff, the level of fidelity goes up compared to just sort of community people who may be great artists building stuff. But when you spend all day building great, building art assets for games that are played by millions of people, you just have a different quality. So we're going to get that from the minting these super whatever they're called Prime Eternals. So I think they'd be valuable from that point of view. And I think it just goes into the whole narrative now that we're seeing what I would now call traditional games companies. Definitely doing stuff in blockchain. They're not launching Axie Infinity because those are big projects that take a long time to do. But they are in their own ways, for what fits their own projects, experimenting in different ways. So we see Ubisoft doing this sort of aesthetic NFTs for Ghost Recon, locking it down on the Tezos blockchain, making it very difficult to people to access these things. But that's what they need to do legally, I suppose. Jam City being a bit more open, but at this point, this is just an NFT minting project. We don't see how that's going to interact with the game. But it's fascinating. I'm finding this stuff brilliant. Loads more of these games from sort of real games companies or traditional games companies sort of coming out. So definitely that's something to keep an eye on. And if you're interested in Champions Ascension, I would say join Twitter and the Discord to find out when the minting's happening. There's a sort of a rough date at the moment, so we're just waiting to get that confirmed, and I'll be doing some follow-up stuff around that. So anyway, thanks for watching. This is Blockchain Gaming World. Please subscribe to the channel if you're interested in this sector, and see you again soon.